All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about a couple things regarding the Steelers. We'll talk about Russell Wilson's return to practice as well as Roman Wilson's injury. And we got a comment in the chat, Diggs, BTW1, saying, "What's up? What's going on?" Just talking about just about to talk about the Steelers. A couple things with the Steelers. I wanted to get into some quotes from Mike Tomlin. He said Russ is getting back to action today. This is talking about yesterday. He played some 7-on-7. He got a little 11-on-11 work, not a lot. We'll keep progressing with that throughout the week and moving forward, obviously with the mindset of no steps backwards as we do so. He also said, we'll play it day by day and play it by ear and do what's appropriate on a day-to-day basis. I'm slowing down the progress, and I think I've been pretty clear with you guys about that. I don't know that attire created any new learning from a quarterback perspective in terms of evaluating him. And this is talking about Justin Fields. He's been doing a really good job and continued today. And there was a play that, he hadn't practiced throwing to George Pickens for a touchdown. So, it's possible Justin Fields is really, well, it's not that it's possible, but it seems like he's pushing Russell Wilson for that job. And now, Russell Wilson getting hurt, especially the kind of injury that it is, a calf injury, because the calf injuries are not good. Because Aaron Rodgers has dealt with calf injuries over the course of his career, and, that could have been part of the reason why he tore his Achilles last year. Because he was dealing with the calf injury before the season, and maybe that wasn't completely, healed up. So, that could have maybe led to his injury. Again, not a medical professional, but, I know I'm pretty sure that's something that people might have pointed to, like he wasn't fully healthy for the season. But yeah, he dealt with a calf injury before. Back in, when they went to the NFC Championship game against the Seahawks, he dealt with a calf injury. So calf injuries are no joke. So hopefully, for Russ, that he could shake that off. And we saw Joe Burrow had to deal with, dealing with his calf injury last year, and how, the Bengals offense kind of suffered because of that. And then once he was able to, shake that off, the Bengals started playing really well, and then he suffered the wrist injury. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I feel like we're going to see both quarterbacks play during the year. Obviously preseason, that's a given. We know that. But if Russell Wilson is the starter, how many games is he going to play before they decide we're going to go to Justin Fields? Maybe that doesn't happen at all. Maybe Russ plays really well and they never go to Justin Fields. But I do have a feeling that we are going to see Justin Fields at some point. He's going to play. But, we'll see. And, again, give the Steelers credit. Russell Wilson's not making a lot of money with the Steelers. The Broncos are paying his contract. And then Justin Fields, they didn't have to give up a lot. And I think it was one of my friends, they brought up a good point. That had the Steelers known that they could have got Justin Fields for the kind of price that they did, would they have signed Russ? And they said probably not. But we'll never know. But that definitely was something interesting. But yeah, listen, the quarterback room is completely different than what it was last year. I think the Steelers did a great job. Now, both guys, you got Russell Wilson, who, has had a couple of, last year I don't think was really a down year, but it wasn't the Russell Wilson we were accustomed to seeing in Seattle. The year before was a down year. That was a down year. But I thought he played decent last year. So, let's see how he is with Pittsburgh. And Justin Fields, yeah, there's still some question marks with him, throwing the football. We know how electric he is, running with the football. But, as a passer, we'd like to see more improvement out of him. And that comes with receivers. And I wanted to get into one of their receivers, Roman Wilson, who they drafted out of Michigan. So he suffered an ankle sprain during Tuesday's practice. He was carted off the field. So I saw that and I thought, oh, that's not good. He might be out for the year. But he has an ankle sprain, currently labeled as week to week. ESPN reports Wilson will be out for at least 2 weeks. The injury occurred during a jet sweep when Wilson was rolled up on. And I know there were comments about that, Steeler fans saying we're still running jet sweeps. But yeah, so that's how he was injured on a jet sweep. And Wilson initially left the field under his own power before being taken on a cart. Mike Tomlin confirmed the ankle injury, mentioned more information will follow regarding Wilson's status. The Steelers selected him in the third round of the 2024 draft. In his final season with Michigan, caught 48 passes for 789 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns, earned second team All Big Ten honors. And they're looking to him, maybe to be the guy that steps into that wide receiver 2 role, because they traded Deontay Johnson to Carolina, and they signed some other guys, Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson. I know I've talked about them, but, and they also have Calvin Austin still, who made some plays for them last year. But, outside of George Pickens, the wide receiver core is a little thin, and, they need somebody to step up. It's possible that with this injury, the Steelers could look to maybe trade for a receiver, which I think would be smart. I feel like they got to do that at some point. Because it's just, I just think their receiving core is thin. I really do. And, George Pickens, we know, is a stud, and we're hoping that, with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, we could see, more out of him. Because last year he had over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. And this is with, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky. I want to see what he could do with, consistent quarterback play. Now, who knows if we're going to get that with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, but I think the Steelers' quarterback situation is better than what it was last year. And Hawaiian 5-0 is in the chat. Good to see you. Hope all is well. But yeah, outside of George Pickens, you got Van Jefferson and Roman Wilson. You got Van Jefferson, who actually I think has been doing well in practice. So he could, maybe be that guy that separates himself from the pack. But yeah, you got Quez Watkins. They also have Scotty Miller as well. Scotty Miller gives me nightmares, with that touchdown pass he caught in the championship game with the Buccaneers a few years ago. Because, I was hoping Aaron Rodgers would maybe play in another Super Bowl, but that was not the case. So that play always gives me nightmares. Well, not really. I'm just saying that, but still. So, yeah, it's just the receiving core is not – there's a lot left to be desired. And we got to see, who steps up. And the Steelers, they've been a team that has been able to develop wide receivers over the years. They've always been deep with receivers. I feel like here they're a little bit thin. They signed a lot of depth pieces this offseason. Like I said, Scotty Miller, Quez Watkins, Van Jefferson. So, trading for a receiver isn't, the worst idea. That definitely, it depends on who it is. But I feel like that's something they're going to have to do. But, Roman Wilson was listed as the third wide receiver on the depth chart. So right now you got George Pickens, Van Jefferson, and, hopefully Roman Wilson, this doesn't keep him out for too long. Like I said, he's week to week. But, that's right now your top 3 receivers. And then, of course, you have Pat Freiermuth in the running game. Look, I know there are question marks with the quarterback position, but even with that, I feel like the Steelers are still going to finish with a decent record. Mike Tomlin, what he's able to do year in and year out, get this team to finish around 500 or over 500. He has never had a losing season. It's hard for me to say that this year is going to be the year. It's possible, but, last year it was possible. Didn't happen. The year before that, too, because they looked like they were going to finish with the losing record, getting blown out by Philly and Buffalo a couple years ago. It just looked like, it wasn't going to be their year to finish over 500, but they still finished 9-8. Last year, they finished 10-7. So, I mean, things got to go your way too. I mean, there was injuries last year. The Browns had injuries, and they did beat the Browns earlier in the year with Deshaun Watson, but Nick Chubb got hurt in that game. I mean, but you also had Joe Burrow. They swept the Bengals, but that's because Joe Burrow wasn't playing. I think if Joe Burrow plays, the Steelers are not sweeping the Bengals. And they also swept the Ravens too. Which I don't think is going to happen this year. Now, I said I think the Steelers will at least split, but I don't think the Steelers are sweeping the Ravens. Because the last game of the year, the Ravens are playing their backups. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, there are some question marks going into this season. You got the quarterback position. We'll see what happens with this quarterback battle, this quarterback competition, and then we'll see who steps up with the receiving core. But I think the Steelers should look into trying to trade for a receiver to kind of help it out. Because, you got George Pickens, but then, after that, it's, guys got to step up. I mean, they traded Deontay Johnson. They drafted Roman Wilson, and he might be the latest, Steelers receiver that produces. We don't. It's rare in recent years that we see receivers not succeed in Pittsburgh, that they develop. Like Chase Claypool is one of them. But he came out on fire. It didn't pan out with him. But you go back to 2017. Back when they had Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. Martavis Bryant was making plays for him. He looked like he was going to be good, but just, off the field stuff, he just kept getting suspended. It just didn't work out. But even before that, Hines Ward, Santonio Holmes, it's just the Steelers always seem to have a good group of receivers. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. I'm just talking about guys from when I started watching. But yeah, it's we'll see what happens here, but that's something they're gonna have to look at. And maybe if the Steelers are hanging around 500, they're still in the playoff race, and there's receivers that are made available. They maybe go out and try to trade for somebody. That's definitely on the table, but we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about these two things: Russell Wilson returning to practice and Roman Wilson getting hurt. Again, when I saw that he was carted off the field, that was not a good sign, but then you get more news on it, and it's an ankle sprain, which again, you don't want that, but it's better than what it could have been. It could have been a lot worse. So he avoided a major injury, and that could have kept him out his whole rookie season, which would have been unfortunate. But that's not the case. So, he's week to week. So, we'll see when he comes back. And then, as for Russell Wilson, he's back, and, the pressure's on because, Justin Fields seems to be doing well in practice. So, but that's my thoughts on the Steelers. Let me know what you guys think about these headlines here. So we're going to take our next break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers and his status for the preseason. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.